Valheim's forbidden items can provide a window into the past of this great game, shock you with what could have been, and some of them are just downright creepy. Today, I'll share with you the most interesting forbidden items that you too can summon into your game with in-console commands. And what can be more exciting than a literal spaceship? Yep, you heard that right. By inputting command Tolroko_flyer, you will summon this shiny and incredibly reflective little rocket. But no, you can't ride it. All you can really do is push it around a bit. While interesting, it's not super useful. Unlike the 8 weapons and armor pieces that can all be spawned and are mostly completely functional. First are 2 shields, where one doesn't seem to cooperate with item stands very well. However, the first is the Knight Shield, brought in with the command spawn shield knight, is completely functional and is one of the more unique looking shields in the game. Second is the Iron Square, which doesn't agree with item stands and when equipped, hangs off the character kinda like a diaper, but can actually block damage just like any other shield despite the wonky appearance. You can also pair those shields with a fine set of armor by combining both the Cape of Odin and Helmet, which are awarded to those players who supported the game before early access. Or you can take a swig out of the special tankard of Odin to complete the look. Unfortunately, while you can spawn these items in, only those who met the criteria as an early supporter can equip these 3. On the other hand, you can spawn and equip the Test Cape. I'll admit this isn't the most fashionable, but is certainly unique. It's unclear to me why it exists, but I have to assume it's there for testing new game assets as Iron Gate continues to develop the game. Aside from gear, there are 2 new swords that can be summoned, starting with the Old Flame Sword. Prior to the Ashlands update, there was a fire sword in the game's code, summoned with the Sword Iron Fire command, which as you can now see is named Deernwyn, as is the real fire sword added in this update. I certainly prefer the new look, but it's pretty cool you can still spawn the old version. However, if looking for something more powerful, you can bring in the Cheat Sword, which has stats dealing 10,000 damage, which allows you to one-shot almost every mob, with even bosses only taking a couple hits. Speaking of bosses, both Bowmasses and the Elder's Heart are spawnable items. I discovered the Elders on my recent playthrough of Alpha Valheim, where his heart was a reward, which in that version granted a permanent buff to your max health. Unfortunately, when it and Bowmass's heart are consumed today, no health buff is provided. Similar, stamina upgrade drops can be spawned for the Grey Dwarf, Troll, and Wraith, which I can only assume once provided an increase to your stamina bar, just like the hearts. But, like the hearts, are useless today. On that same playthrough too, I noticed differences in the Elder's Altar, which at the time had unique statues at each of its 4 pillars, which are now all ancient seeds. You can still spawn these fixtures of a corgi, deer, hare, and of course the seed. To craft the true Deernwyn we looked at earlier, you of course need flame metal, which has changed since the game launched. Once upon a time, you could navigate to the Ashlands and mine meteorites, protected by Surtling, in the once barren wasteland. You can still summon the old ore, now referred to as glowing metal ore. While the old ore can no longer be smelted, you can still spawn its refined version, now called ancient metal. Other resource veins like iron, copper, and stone once looked very different too. Iron, prior to early access, was mined from veins like this. When mining the summon node now, you simply get stone, despite iron ore being the original drop in the game's early years, now replaced by iron scrap. Unlike most items on the list, the ore from these rocks can still be found in-game with a small drop chance when catching giant herring in the swamp. Copper veins match the iron with distinct green coloring, but drop the same copper ore as is in the game currently. In my opinion, I prefer the copper veins we have now. Thirdly, stone veins, mirroring that of the copper and iron, can also be spawned in, yielding, you guessed it, stone. To mine the ores, you can summon in another tool in the stone pickaxe to help you out. The stone version is completely functional and even has its own unique sound effect when put into action. But the pickaxe isn't the only stone item on this list, as stone portals can also be brought in, weirdly, with the simple command of portal, while the current version having the internal ID of portal_wood. This leads me to believe the stone version may have been the original concept for the teleporting device. Further, the stone versions are gorgeous, fully functional, have their own unique sounds, but are blue, unlike the red portals we have now. In some ways, I prefer the aesthetic of this version. There are even 2 unobtainable trophies that can be summoned, with one of them being invisible. I'll explain in a moment. The first is the female version of the Draugr. Despite both male and female versions of these found in the swamp, they each only drop the male trophy. For the female alternative, input this command for what I believe is a better version of the decoration. Second is the Forest Troll trophy. What? You don't see it? It's right there. This is a weird one. While this item can be spawned with a command, it's not modeled in the game and only appears as an invisible but interactable object. In fact, you can see it on your screen when picked up, in your inventory, and of course you can even mount it. If you want to know more about the origins of this troll variant, you'll have to check out the video I'll point you to at the end of this one. Even 2 additional boats can be summoned into the game. Well, boat may be too strong of a word. For one, you can bring in a Viking ship under construction, which I thought could make for a good base decoration, until it spontaneously completed itself while I was recording this video. Upon completion, it transformed into a fully functional Viking ship, which would be familiar to today's players. Alternatively, the trailer ship can be spawned and is hella weird. It appears as only a skeleton of what must have been a ship variation the dev team had been working on. Weirdly though, you can hear the sails flapping in the wind as you walk around it. Better yet, if you spawn it over sea, it creates this weird visual effect, allowing you to see below the ocean surface. Despite it not being sailable, you can both take a seat and grab its mast. And if you want to swab the deck of your ships, you can spawn in a bucket to kick around. Kind of a funny item. More useful, but admittedly kind of terrifying, are these variants of the armor stand, coming with both male and female alternatives. My best guess is these are in the game to test how new weapons and armor will behave. When equipped on character models, you can place a full set of armor, weapons in each hand, and both a back weapon and shield on these dummies. Better yet, they come equipped with a button at their base, which allows you to toggle their stance into emotes, of which many of you will probably recognize. In total, there are 15 emote stances you can set, which is pretty neat. And before getting to the best forbidden item, or maybe an enemy, there are 2 old creatures you can spawn in. The first is a stationary dummy that are modeled after the original design of the Draugr and even mimic the sound of the swamp creature as it is today. These are great to have in your base, as you can test out the damage of your new weapons without fear. They even drop entrails when you defeat them too. Second is a white variant of the leech, referenced as a cave leech. Despite the different appearance, it seems to be almost the same as the swamp's version, even with the same drops. I wonder if this was intended for frost caves. And best of all is this gargantuan mass of... I don't even know what. If you couldn't tell by the health bar, this is a boss that never made it into the final version of the Mistlands, known only as the Hive. Unlike any other boss, this mass is completely stationary, and at least in this version has no attacks to speak of. You can defeat it too by climbing the wooden platform embedded in the perimeter of the beast. Hitting the creature does no damage unless you navigate to the red-orange bulges on its side. Strangely, when you do defeat the creature, it shrieks with the same sound effect of the mountain's drake and drops a freeze gland, which must have been used as a placeholder. And while the boss isn't in the alpha version of Valheim, many of the items covered here are. And I completed a full playthrough of the earliest version of Valheim in this video right here. Plus, you can find the discussed item IDs in this video's description should you want to spawn them in yourself.